example that maybe encapsulate this, how the common is not only just like a third sphere or a third way beyond public and private, is, for example, the practice of the mareas in Spain. Is like this marea is tide, like in the ocean, and well, there has been like these movements. These mareas are focused around different public services. Like the education is the green tide. Every marea is identified with a color, green tide. With the public health system is the white tide, and so on. The powerful thing about these mareas is that, in a way, they take, when all the austerity measures began, many people realized that, well, they were being dispossessed by, from, well, basic public services. And somehow, spontaneously, so to say, they, the word common emerged as a, well, this is not just like the state in an abstract way, but this is ours, so to say. And then the mareas went beyond like the traditional union organization and so on, because they posed this problem as, well, since, I don't know, like this public school, this hospital, etc., is ours, it belongs to everyone. It's not only like a labor conflict, for example, that concerns only the workers there in that working center. It's also, it affects, of course, the users. Like, for example, in a school, obviously, it's not only about the teachers, but also the students, the families, etc. Also in the hospitals, it's not only about the doctors and nurses, but also about the patients. And then there were like huge actions of like people almost physically embracing these buildings, these institutions. So what is interesting is that, so they are like public state institutions, of course, but then spontaneously they were felt, so to say, as common. So maybe what is very creative in these mareas is that, well, it's a way of maybe conceiving the protest like anti-austerity protest, not in even like in this anti-term, like this defensive term of like we have to defend public services and so on, but actually to redefine the whole relationship and engagement with those public institutions. So in a way, the common can be also a useful framework maybe to define this relationship with what usually is conceived just like as public. This is the state's responsibility, and that's it. Maybe, since also Marina mentioned it, in a way it's also the mareas functioning is very similar to the PA functioning in many ways. The PA is the platform of people affected by mortgages. And well, it's just, since Marina mentioned it just to, I wanted to highlight a few points about that, because it's really interesting how the PA has been developing many different strategies. Some like have this more institutional approach, so to say, such as, for example, ILP. This is like an initiative, popular initiative for a law. Right? They presented it in the parliament. Of course, it was rejected. But the interesting thing, I think the people from the PA didn't expect the parliament to approve that. But it actually was like one institutional way to precisely to show that the representative institutions are just unable to accept those very proposals. Right? And then they went to other strategies, as the occupations of buildings, as Dario mentioned, and also then the scratches, which they took from Argentina. You know, the word scratch means, well, this outing is the word in public outing, yeah. So it's like people concentrating, for example, in front of some politicians' houses, so, and then waiting and, well, shouting or protesting in a peaceful way. Okay, but actually, well, it introduced, well, the whole question of housing in the whole country, right? So yeah, and in general, it's like it's really interesting how the PA works. Like the people there well, it stresses self-organization and also going from the individual to the collective. So the people affected, of course, they first are affected in a very individual way, or the family, and they are, of course, isolated, depressed by this. They first go to an assembly by the PA, and then they get like this support. But what the people from the PA stress is that everything is about the self-empowerment of these people, so they all can receive like the tools to solve their own cases, but also in the collective way. So it's a very interesting combination of collective encounters and ways of organizing, but also then how every individual, every family can self-empower themselves.